Okay, we're live. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kmaq as the steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. And the approval of the agenda and order of business. 10.1 we're taking off. We're apparently not ready for that one. We're adding one minor in-camera legal opinion item. And what did you say, committee of the whole? I don't have to approve the recommendation because...
For Gold River, we're gonna...
The Gold River, yeah, because that's what we've taken it off, yeah. And that's it for me. What about anybody else? Additions, deletions? Delete the whole agenda, then we get out of here in a hurry.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Moved and seconded. Moved by Councillor Asaph, just in case you want to know, and seconded by Councillor Bremner.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Maybe we should put remodel workshop on there, and they're under committee reports, just to keep everybody apprised.
Are we still good with that, with the motion?
Yes.
Yep.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, public input. I am not aware of any.
Nope.
And I don't see anybody here. So. Minutes of the previous meeting, canceled January the 16th. Errors or omissions, people?
I'll move we approve the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Church. Seconded by Councillor Coolin. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Proclamations and designations, not aware of any.
Nope, not today.
Okay. Committee reports, committee of the whole. I don't even have the minutes and for some reason, but was there anything else on there?
They're on the...
Oh, on the back here, okay. Gold River Bridge, public input session at council meetings. Well, I guess we'd need to approve that one. Yeah, so we'd need to approve 038.
Yeah.
Somebody prepared to move, we approved 038.
What about 036?
We don't need to approve that because we don't have enough information.
We're waiting
at the
for
moment.
more
Yeah.
information on the budget.
I'll move we approve motion 2025-038.
Moved by Councillor Church, seconded by Councillor Asaph. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. South Shore Public Libraries, Councillor Connors.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Gonna say what?
So it's been a while since I've done a committee report on South Shore Public Library. I did have a conflict for quite a while there in terms of two meetings happening, Fire Advisory Committee and South Shore Public Library. So I had been attending the Fire Advisory Committee meeting. South Shore Public Library, just two things to note. A marketing audit was carried out recently, really basically looking at what we're doing well and what we could be doing a bit better. I'm simplifying it. We received a grant just specifically for that project through CCTH, so it was outside of our operational money, budgeted money. And the approach included a survey and focused interviews. We gathered input from the public as well as from staff. So I do know as well that the CEO, Ashley Nunn-Smith, will be coming in mid-February, I think February 13th, possibly, in terms of a presentation. So she is making the rounds as a CEO to each of the municipal units. So she'll probably touch on these much more. From the marketing audit, we have agreed as a board to do a 6-month term marketing assistant position to really, again, work on what we gleaned from the study. Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Plan, the South Shore Public Library, EDI. The current plan has been in play since April 2022. Work is happening now on an updated plan, and we are hoping to receive that in April as a board. This is being led by staff in consultation with all of our partners. And that would be the two items that really I just wanted to highlight. For this particular report, hopefully I'll do them more frequently. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, anybody? No? Ian, I don't know if you were here quite,
Yeah, I just found out.
oh, that we're not even we're not dealing with,
Excuse me, I'm not annoyed with you, but I leave.
well, I just thought I'd let you know that it wasn't even on the agenda now.
Okay, thank you, keep up the good work, guys.
Okay. Okay, recreation and parks, and there's a couple of motions there that need approval.
I can report on that. At the last meeting, there were 2 requests for funding, and both are going to curling. They're related, but they're not brother and sister. So the committee approved that each get $500, and I would make that a motion that we approve motion 2025-31 and 2025-32.
Moved by Councillor Church, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Bremner. Discussion?
Any questions on it, or? It's pretty
All those in
straightforward.
favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Didn't seem like it were. Appointment isn't until 9:15, so.
I think they're,
Oh, yeah, Remo, okay. You were gonna do that.
Well, I can.
Yeah, started.
Yeah. So, on January 16th, there was a Remo workshop held to discuss, I think, some of the background, to sort of bring out into the air some of the background discussions that have been happening with respect to Remo, how it's funded, operationally, how it's been going, and I think for me, I think it's long overdue. That there were 2 sort of main themes. One is the overall governance structure of Remo. So currently, Remo, as you know, is comprised of 5 municipal units, us, Municipal of the District of Lunenburg, and the 3 towns, Lunenburg, Mahone Bay, and Bridgewater. And decisions are made in a committee format, but when it comes to, like, if there's any division, i.e. if things are not unanimous, the vote is by assessment. We comprise, I think, 31% or something of that assessment. And Municipality of the District of Lunenburg comprises 49%. So, if we or any other unit is in disagreement with Municipality of the District of Lunenburg, who is the host unit also, all units have to also be opposed to basically stop whatever it is that they wish to proceed with. So that by itself, I think, becomes problematic, especially when, it could be argued that, when they have their own staff that are sort of participating as the host, sometimes you're very close to it, and, you take, oftentimes, and we're guilty of that here sometimes too, you take the recommendations of your staff, and if others see a different point of view, you want to dig in and support your staff, and I think that can create conflict. So I think that was recognized, and I think they're coming back with some other mechanisms where it may have to be like assessment and maybe 3 units or something, some other metrics besides just straight assessment, which is good. Okay, so that was one discussion. I think that was well received by everybody. The second thing was operationally. So what brought this all to light for the new councillors, especially, was last year, maybe a year and a half ago.
Close to it.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while, but basically our Remo budget sort of suddenly doubled
but with not a lot of explanation from our side, and that was some failures in our internal communication here of our, maybe our representatives and staff that participated in the committee, but also, I think also a failure of the REMO mechanism. Like, it seemed very onerous for folks from like our staff at REMO to attend all the councils and give updates, but, you know, we'll get them from, you know, any other group that we support. So we were a bit in the dark, like when this budget change first came, why it came, and it triggered all kinds of questions, like why are we dumping more money in? And what I think sort of the root of it all is that REMO has an important role. We know emergencies are on the rise due to all kinds of factors, and there's certainly with, you know, there was a fatality in the floods, and there's a public, there's certainly, it's very apparent that we need to step up and do a better job of managing emergencies, and we can't be, if an emergency happens, we can't be caught flat-footed. So there's a need to take it seriously and to fund it appropriately. But the tool by which you do it, or the structure, that's what's in play here. So the model that they were sort of like, the path we were going down is adding more staff to the REMO unit itself, which is not really owned by anyone. It's we participate in a number of these joint sort of committees where we share responsibility with other units. But the problem with those committees is no one government really ever truly feels like they have ownership of it. And that can lead to a bit of apathy. And creating like a broader agency style, what I call an agency, where all the staff are centrally located and everybody owns a piece, that can lead to less oversight and maybe not the best service for our residents. By way of example, like if our headquarters are in Municipality District of Lunenburg, you know, it takes an hour to drive to Northwest Cove. So if we have emergencies that are around the Aspetuggin or at the very far reaches of New Ross, are those people really in tune with what's happening in our communities? You know, our argument, I think, as Chester, is they probably aren't, and that having distributed staff would make maybe more sense. So I think overall, with all units, there's a recognition that we need to better staff so that we can handle emergencies. And most of our staff that participate in emergency management are doing it sort of like side of the desk. It's part-time positions. You know, I'm not sure how much, we say that they're like a 0.6 here or a certain amount there, but, you know, realistically, how you know, when an emergency happens, you want somebody that lives and breathes emergency management and they understand it. Not somebody that, you know, took some training, you know, 6 months ago and, you know, hopefully they'll be able to figure it out. And further, our whole model relies on the CAOs really going to these emergency command centers, and they're sort of like the person that's in charge, like they rotate through. But as you know, like our CAO has to be an expert in public works and planning, and, you know, there's law things, and there's all kinds of jobs that a CAO has to do. And it just doesn't seem realistic to expect a CAO to then, when an emergency comes up, they're also an expert in emergency management. You know, that's why, you know, our CAO doesn't do engineering, because they're, you know, or it doesn't do the planning, you know, or like, because you can't be an expert on, you have people that do that. So I feel like the model itself, if we're confronted with a real emergency, it's sort of a doomed to fail. So Chester's proposal at the workshop was to sort of move away from this centralized model and actually Municipality of the District of Lunenburg and Chester each hire a full-time person that's what they do. They manage emergencies, they do the training, all the part-timers, they manage that. They do all of the contingency plans with all of our big, like the Maybachs down in East River or Shoreham Village or other big enterprises that would require emergency management plans. They would do all that stuff. They would also be, because they're here and our own staff, they would be connected to our own communities and they would understand our needs. And because these people would live and breathe the emergency, it would take a lot of pressure off the CAO in an emergency situation because you'd actually have somebody that was trained. The problem, of course, lies with smaller units like Mahone Bay or Bridgewater that only comprise like 11% or, in Mahone Bay's, I don't even know, it's some small percentage of the total assessment of this group of 5. So our suggestion was that, the towns themselves could then split one emergency person.
Amongst themselves.
So that would then leave Angela as the REMO coordinator in a role that's traditionally what we always saw as like REMO was created as a coordination service, and she would be then the coordinator to ensure that all of the emergency professionals were doing their things and checking all those boxes, and a broader way doing that oversight. And it would give, if the 3 towns then split one, that would give 3 emergency sort of experts. And I think that would give a more robust overall regional response, because you'd have then 4 dedicated emergency people in the region, plus then you'd have all of our part-time folks that have training and stuff to back them up. So that was our proposal. Staff went away to sort of cost it and look at how it could be. I think from our perspective, it probably will be because no matter what, we're going to end up having to spend more money in emergency management. I think that this option will be like a marginal change from what Chester will have to contribute. But I think the actual service that we'll be able to offer our residents will be much improved. So that's where it stands at this point. I just wanted to give an update because it has been a bit of a contentious regional issue. And I'm sure the others can pipe in with whatever.
No, there seemed to be reasonable support for the concept, so,
We'll see.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay. Well, when they come back with the report and the costing and all that, that might change something, but, but they weren't opposed to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay,
Councillor Connors has.
okay, sorry, Councillor Connors.
Thank you, no problem. So I was curious to see, so the January 16th workshop where our representatives, Abdallah, you were there, excellent, and the CAO and Deputy Warden, that's wonderful, I'm glad, really glad to hear that. I had just said a moment ago that I was not attending FAC, but I am still linked in to FAC. And from what I understand, at the December, was it the December meeting, November, December, Angela was there at FAC, and I think our 2 representatives might have been there as well, 2 councillors to my left. So there was a discussion around the table there, which again, I was not at the table, I've only heard after the fact. So I'm assuming that all this is linked back into our own fire advisory providers, fire service providers, I'm sorry, because again, they should be just high level aware and the fact that I think that they may be very excited to hear that it could be fine-tuned and, kind of brought back.
I'm not sure if they were informed yet because we
It was
haven't
before,
really made.
that was a December meeting, this is
Right.
January 16th. And also too, you really piqued my interest, Councillor Vino, when you mentioned if an emergency takes place, we can't be caught flat-footed. I agree, and that links into one of the projects that you're going to hear about during major project deliberation, and that's specifically around a coordination area and being prepared and ready for a segment of our population that we've never talked about, and that's animals. When I say population, because animals, we have a lot of farm animals throughout the municipality and throughout the valley and so on. So there is a discussion around being ready in terms of an emergency of what we've learned from Shelburne and Metro, more locally, but of course even broader than that when we think of in the world with what's happening in LA and so on. But for animals and farm animals and large animals. So again, you'll hear more about that in terms of being emergency ready, but it's going to be linked into a major project that's going to come to this table. So Yeah.
That was a big issue out west when they had all
Well,
those
no, that's what I'm
fires.
saying, so we need to be ready for that. So I was glad to actually hear that today, so thank you.
Okay. So, we're close enough to 9:15, I think, that you guys you appear to be here, so come on up. How's everybody this morning?
Pretty good.
Got your driveway shoveled and all that?
Yep.
All the chores are done. All right, I'll get started. Yes, I'm Bill Church, Chair of Church Memorial Park, and I'm accompanied today with the Church Memorial Park Manager, Vanessa Stevens, and the Church Memorial Park's Chair of Finance, Dan McDougall. And thank you guys very much for giving us this time today and your continued support in the past. We're happy to report the roof monitoring system has been installed, and it is set up to send, I guess, alerts to Vanessa's cell phone, so that we're not in the dark about anything that's happening.
Cell phones are a wonderful thing.
We are pleased that the feasibility study has moved on to the next steps, and we thank the municipality for their taking on their part of this. I guess today, what we're here for is to make sort of, I guess, a pitch or request for our annual funding from the municipality. Our board has been, I guess the focus is on increasing the use of the facility and developing programs in the facility. Pleased to report that both are up since our new manager has taken place. And we're also focused on human resources and the development of, I guess, education and development of our staff to make us more independent, so we're not so focused on outside groups that cost a lot of money coming in to assist us. As, I guess, things goes on, both Vanessa and I are prepared to answer any questions you have, but I'm going to turn it over to Dan to do a bit of a presentation on the act.
Thank you very much, Bill. And so I won't go over in detail the letter that we submitted to council, but some of the highlights I think that are worth presenting include it's a one-year funding request that we're asking for at this time. The previous arrangement for 4 years was greatly appreciated. It created certainty and enabled us to plan with that knowledge. But I just think at this point in time, there's a lot of unknowns. The significant unknowns are, what will the new recreation complex pre-planning look like this time next year? Because that will influence the capital improvement planning that we're doing. If there's, in terms of how much more life do we wish to achieve out of the existing facility, the longer the life, likely the more expenditure that would be in our capital improvement plan for the existing building. Also a chance for the new manager to just have real ground knowledge of what's going on in the facility. We have the assessment and the feasibility review, but I think it's important for Vanessa to really understand what the needs are in the facility, and she's developing that knowledge daily. In terms of the roof monitoring, we don't really know what the roof monitoring costs might look like next year. Do we just do a year of monitoring and that's sufficient for safety and sufficient for the design of repairs? Or if we should continue with roof monitoring in future years? I know Bill spoke about how we're focused on increasing use of the facilities. And so this year, the hockey ice season was extended. So we need to understand those costs a little better. We also need to understand the revenues. Month of December was a really good month with a focus on new programming, new ice uses. But we'd like to have a year of experience to know what the balance is between new revenues and new expenses. In terms of cost pressures, of course, inflation is a cost pressure. We all have those cost pressures. Electricity and wages are two of our biggest expenditure items. So that's contributed to our increase in funding requests that we've asked this year. For the next year, we also have additional costs related to our obligation for safety, for ice plant safety. So we have in place contracts for qualified refrigeration technicians to daily check on our ice plant. Vanessa started her refrigeration training and certification, and is pursuing that with great success. I know around, just a little bit of a sidetrack, I know around the kitchen table with my family, my father always used to say, so you got 85 on that test, what happened to the 15 other points? I can confirm that my father wouldn't be able to ask Vanessa that question for any of the modules that she's completed so far. Water is another expense, significant expense this year, about $15,000. The well on the property wasn't adequate for the amount of water use. I think I put in the note, we use about 30 to 40,000 liters per week. Huge volume of water required for ice making and ice resurfacing, and also water required for user experience, the washrooms, showers in the dressing room, etc. So we anticipate that is a new cost and perhaps an increasing cost.
If I can just interrupt you, have you guys looked at perhaps putting another well on the property? Is that something you're interested in?
We have another well, but the water comes out looking like coffee. So the treatment of that water would be a huge expense to install. So we do use that in our refrigeration room, but it's not able to be put on the ice because we'd have brown ice.
Yeah, it's not potable water. We use it for cooling the condensers on the refrigeration system, and we use it for you can't use it for resurfacing though, because
As I noticed in the
Just
report,
too dark.
your bulk water expense was very high,
yeah, we have,
like very high. Yeah.
we do have multiple wells, and they just keep drilling them, and we haven't had any success in getting better.
Wow.
It's not been the world's best year for water anyway.
No, 2, 3, 4 truckloads, I think, per week at the start of the season. The other cost pressure that we have are service contracts. I think for a number of years, the facility's been run with low costs. Some of the cost reductions related to not putting in place service contracts for things like the elevator or lift, for the ice resurfacer, for the refrigeration system. There's consequences with that. We're seeing that we have some expenditures now that could have been prevented had we had those service contracts in place. So I know the manager will look at that closely. But we think there's likely to be that kind of preventative investment so that we're not caught with system failures that reduce
Revenue.
you reduce revenue because we closed the facility. There has been a number of, the ice resurfacer is in a case in point this year. We're continue to use a borrowed, I think,
Rented from Lunenburg.
rented. In terms of capital priorities, we identified kind of the highlights in the letter. Ice plant is, our current estimate is probably in the $50,000 range for replacement of essential components of that infrastructure. Ice resurfacer, we continue to spend money on our ice resurfacer and anticipate, costs in the $25,000 range. Feasibility study certainly identified a lot of other areas. Our external door systems, garages, front entrance, we would replace as many of those door systems as we can. The dasher boards and glass, we're, I think, getting close if we haven't run out of inventory on site. We have cracks in the dasher boards that, if they become serious, can create safety issues. So doing as much as we can for the dasher boards and glass system. And other investment that we'd like to get at, it relates to user experience and safety. The flooring systems throughout the facility could use some upgrading. So the ask for $100,000 for those capital, we'll get at those in priority order. I guess, and finally, we'll always apply for other funding. Valentine's Day is the deadline for applications to the province for the rink revitalization program. We will be applying to that program again this year. Shortly, we should receive an update from our structural engineer on the roof system. So the board will have to make a decision about what we prioritize for the rink revitalization program, whether it's the roof repairs or whether it's other facility components. So I think that's the highlights.
Questions, people? Thank you. Obviously, it's next year's operating budget, which we haven't approved yet. And, I could sit here and tell you, oh, yeah, we'll do it, but I haven't seen the budget yet. So what comes out and what stays in, I don't know yet. But, yeah, I understand the requirement, let's put it that way. Sharon?
Yes, thank you, Warden Weber. I mean, sitting on the board, I certainly do understand the pressures that the board is trying to maintain a facility on a very tight budget. And with an older facility, certain things will have to be done, before even a new facility would happen.
Takes time.
It does take time, and there's certain things that have to be done. And I see this as just necessary items that will need to be done to keep the facility open and to keep it safe for the public. So
I'm
that's,
glad you're trying to generate more income and get more use, and that's a big deal.
Anyway, thank
Councilor
you.
Bremner?
Thank you, Warden Weber, and thank you for that report, because I've always been concerned as someone who grew up the closest to the rink and knows it a very well situation. I'm glad to hear that you're working on finding new revenue, because I always felt the building in the complex was never utilized enough to bring in. I know it's not a huge revenue maker, I understand that, but we've lost so many opportunities, I think, there's so much parking there, and there's so much space for people to do things, and there's so many opportunities, I think, to maybe look at other options, so thank you. I do have some concerns. I love that Vanessa is doing her refrigeration, but I also feel, are there others that are following in suit? Because having one person only, that does become a concern. I've watched that over there for years happen. One person kind of knew everything and the rest came and go, and maybe the investment of a good long-term younger person that has great interest in that might be something we could definitely support, because I think it's, the community, the municipality has been very lucky for 40-plus years to have a complex that they, had to use like that, and basically a wonderful donation. Now we're biting the bullet, and I see that. My concern is how many more times does this come back to the table? Because every engineering study, from my experience, brings more demands and costs, more pressures, more holy crap, we got to deal with that now kind of things. And we're kind of in a position here that if we don't support something like this, we look bad and the community gets let down, and everybody else, so I think the real message I'm sending here is the partnership we have to understand. We're not the bank yet, we seem like it, but we do have to be responsible to the people that use it and to the people that don't use it to make sure we balance that. So your vision is very good. I like to hear that. 2 weeks more of ice time brings you bigger revenue, I hope. I know there's costs. but then there's so much in the off time that I think we can do. So keep up the good work, and I appreciate the energy and the efforts and the reports. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to
reply
respond?
to your question, Tom, about a younger person that would also be taking a refrigeration training so that we're not relying on one person's license. That is certainly in our plan for HR for in the startup in the fall, is to have a younger person that's fully licensed to come in so that we're not depending on the outside contracts for doing our inspections and operation.
Okay, Councillor Brim.
Yes, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. You know, there's so many complex systems there. You got a fire system, you got ventilation, you got the equipment, and for us, we have to be renting an ice machine. I mean, we start to wonder where we've failed over the years to pre-plan for the next years ahead, because I see that's what you're trying to build here. We have to do that. If we don't, this is not going to be the same as it was for the 42 years past. It's going to be a different way. We have to operate it. We're going to be hearing a lot about it, and yeah, we've got a group. I was a little bit shocked. Someone told me the other day we took over the whole complex. We have not. The municipality has not taken over the complex, because that's not our interest rate. You know, we want to work with you, and we want to make sure that we can do that. So thank you, Billy, for that update.
Thank you.
Okay, essentially, we need a motion to refer this to the budget process, because that's the best we can do at the moment.
Also move that we move the requested budget.
Moved by Councillor Church, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Bremner. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Can't tell you more than that right this second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now where the shit am I?
9.1.
Yeah. Okay, 9.1, notice to adopt expense reimbursement policy and re-adopt hospitality policy, corporate and strategic management. And so, we've already done this, we just.
You just need the motions,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, needing one and having one aren't quite exactly the same. So,
Cindy, you want a motion?
yes, I kind of
Okay.
need one unless we aren't doing it.
That we repeal expense policy P-95 and adopt an expense reimbursement policy P-123 in its place, and re-adopt hospitality policy P-1.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Moved by Councillor Acef, seconded by Councillor Church.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay, 10.1 is
Removed?
off of the agenda, so I'm on to 10.2 on open roads, infrastructure, and operations.
Morning, Council. Thank you for your kind attention. So before you this morning is a follow-up to sort of a long-running process that we've been trying to establish with the province, that being the transfer of priority open roads as defined by council back in 2024. There are 11 in total. What we've done is we've obtained, or we requested 3 consultants to provide quotes for the legal land surveying of the 11 priority unopened roads, and you can see that on the second page. Berrigan surveys comes out at 102,300, and Design Point was 147,195, and that we're requesting that council instructs infrastructure and operations to commission Berrigan Surveys Limited for legal land surveying purposes, so the above listed priority PIDs may be transferred from NSDPW to MODC ownership.
Okay, what do we want to do, people? Yes.
Gather, would be sort of like giving pre-budget approval, because this is kind of for next budget, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes,
you would
that's
have,
correct.
you would have three choices, really, I guess. You could do, budget amendment now, but that's not recommended. Refer it to the budget process for further discussion, or the recommended motion is to give it pre-budget approval,
Yeah.
and then it would be included.
Just be clear.
I don't, again, if we're.
Pre-budget approval would allow us to
Would
go
make
out
it
and do the
simpler.
tenders right now for the
Yeah.
survey work.
I guess, I know, Councillor Bremner's predecessor was very passionate about most of the projects that are in this list. And I think that generally, he enjoyed a lot of support, for that. I think it's good for the public. It increases, potentially increases our access to the water, which is, that's what we are here. We're a coastal people. So, you know, I think that you're not gonna get it for less. If this is something we're serious about, and it sounds like we've already gone through a lot of discussion about which projects would be priority. We've whittled this list down from 60 to 10 or 11, whatever it is.
Yeah, 11.
You know, that debate's already been had. So, you know, obviously we assumed that it was gonna cost something. This is the cost. You know, if we can grant access to the ocean in these areas and also improve the trail network potentially and protect that in perpetuity, it's a good value. So, you know, I have no issue with a pre-budget approval, and I would move that that would be option A, I believe, on our list here, that we would commission Bergen surveys to proceed. And then they would be budgeted in our 2025, 2026 budget.
Moved by Councillor Vino, seconder.
Questions?
What?
Councillor Asath and Councillor Connors.
Well, Councillor Connor seconded it, so Councillor Race, if you have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Tina, because she's familiar, this would be great for the trail network out there. Just because I wasn't sure how, I looked along, yeah, absolutely. And as Andre said, I mean, this, so we know that they're gonna hand this over to us, pretty much.
They've said that they will adopt the same process that we got for the Otter Point on Open Road.
Okay.
If we paid for the legal survey, that they would transfer that deed over to us.
Which is as good as it gets.
It's a good deal.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So who else wanted to speak? No? Nobody?
I just wanted to add one small little anecdote, is that historically, we have funded our trail network throughout, the old rail bed. And it's, you know, over the last 30 years or however long it's been in place, we've spent a lot of money on that trail but, you know, it's our most successful recreational asset. And those inland communities we have, Windsor Road, New Ross, they didn't have the benefit of a public corridor like the old rail bed and when they come with, when they have come in the past with MOUs and this sort of thing over private lands, you know, this council, or previous councils have historically said, well, you know, how much money, public money, do we want to invest in private infrastructure? Even though, you know, I think there was goodwill there, we were hesitant to put public monies in. And here's an opportunity, just to reinforce this, here's an opportunity to take that argument away for at least one chunk that, I think it could be a backbone for an improved and increasing trail network to serve those communities, because, you know, in terms of that recreational asset, they have to get in their car and drive 20 minutes to get to it. And, you know, but if we can and do this for those communities that have been underserved by the trail system, then I think that's it's a real win. I think there's a good value.
Tina?
Thank you. I hope I'm allowed to say hallelujah. I hope I am. But hallelujah. And for those that have been around the table for previous years and previous discussions, it's been a long discussion in terms of trail development inland for communities that, again, as Councillor Vino has indicated, that aren't, have not had the privilege of having the history of the old rail line go through their communities and so on. So I think that part of I just want to comment, it was a great learning experience, eye-opener. Last year at this time, January, February timeline, when I was working with the New Ross Trails Society. I was a member at that time, and I was able to be involved with them to the degree that I was, and did some research and digging, trying to do research and trying to do digging in terms of the amount of the investment that we as a municipality have put into our Chester Connection Trail. And it's, I didn't give up, but I just decided I don't need to dig anymore because it's cross-department, and it really is hard to figure that out. It really, really is, but it's quite an eye-opener when you start to discover the amount of, not just the cash outlay in terms of our budget, but the time, the staff, the equipment, the half-ton trucks, or all of the above.
It's a big one.
It's tremendous. It's a humongous, millions and millions and millions of dollars. So I'm glad, I'm excited. And I think that what I might do at some point is sit down with Gord Tate especially, and Councillors Bremner and Coolin, and we can just walk through some of that community trail stuff, the discussion, in a good way, in a positive way. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Thank you for this opportunity.
Any further oh, sorry, Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Warden Weber. I also am excited because when I ran for council, I felt I want to represent my community, of course, but it's the municipality that's the bigger picture here. And I have heard all my life, as many of you had, it's always about Chester. It's always about that. Well, guess what? I don't look at it that way anymore. We have to open up our minds a bit, and we have to break down some barriers and change some people's attitudes and be frank about this opportunity, as Councillor Vino and Councillor Connor say, has great potential for opening up areas that people have always felt left out or not included. And inclusion in my world here around this table is we are the municipality, and we have great opportunities when we actually all work with a positive way to find outcomes that can be balanced. So I just wanted to share that. I think this is a new opportunity and a good vision for a new council to continue to look at and work with, that thinking outside the box and being frank about the challenges and being honest about the past is definitely what we have to deal with and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. 10.3, budget process timeline.
Morning, Council. So what I have for you here today is it's a budget schedule for the upcoming fiscal year with some updates as to what we've been up to, what we're doing right now, what we have left to do, and what your role will be in that, or when your role will come into play.
We got some decisions to make, that I do know.
There might be one or two, yeah. And you will definitely get a chance to make those decisions, but not right now.
No.
Well, I guess that last one was a decision. Anyway. So essentially what we've been doing so far from early January through till now is developing our templates, building the budget, getting the input from all the budget owners on operating needs based on their forecasts for the end of this year, and then how that carries forward into the future year, as well as compiling, all the different capital projects that are on people's desks. And so right now we're just kind of in the finishing portion of that compilation and gathering of information. So from there, it'll come mostly back to me to compile all that stuff into one cohesive operating budget and a list of capital And a preliminary discussion around kind of strategic priorities, right? Because this is a new council session. We haven't gotten through all the priority setting and strategic priority stuff yet. So we will be scheduling a session with council sometime the week of February 10th to discuss those bigger picture alignment with strategic priorities, in particular with regards to capital projects and with various resourcing needs and operational demands on the organization, and making sure that we're aligning with what council sees as the appropriate priorities for the coming term. And so that will be the week of February 10th. From that, we'll take that feedback along with all the other stuff that's gone into the kind of general basic budget building. You know, there's a lot of stuff we do that isn't going to tie into strategic priorities. It's the changes that are going to tie into that mostly. Put that all together into a full budget package. We'll bring those packages back on March 6th for an initial, I think it'll be a discussion session or the replacement for whatever we call those meetings, for council to have a full presentation of the operating and capital and reserves budgets, and to have that first round, well, not first round, but that big discussion about what needs to be changed, what needs to be added, what needs to be removed, to ask questions, get more information about what's gone into it. So that'll be a very likely robust discussion, as will that strategic priority session on the week of February 10th. From there, if there's further discussion, there'll be a second round brought back on March 20th for that second round of hopefully slightly less robust discussion by that point, with an intent for the final budget to be brought to a council meeting on March 27th to be passed and ready to move forward into the new fiscal year.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Yes, it's certainly a
Abdullah.
time.
Yeah, I just, so when I'm not sure when if there's gonna be anything in the capital budget, and if it is, in regards to proposed maybe new facility, will any of that be in there? And are obviously looking at our new building, all of that stuff, or is that just too far away?
I'd have to look back at what we're getting submitted right now. I'm still in the phase of accepting all the different contributions for the capital budget.
Okay.
Obviously, that's a known project that is on the horizon, so we will have to be considering that.
Okay.
There will likely be further discussion.
Yeah, I think at the most what you would see is some sort of how we're gonna resource that, and then whether that's a consultant or what that is, to get us to sort of a next step. That's what you'll probably see in the budget.
Yeah, because I just, I'd like to, at some point, have an analysis done based on a new, recreation facility, rough numbers, always like a Class D estimate, based on what fundraising might, but what would it cost for us to raise $20 million as a municipality? How would that impact our ratepayer?
Yeah.
What would it, what would all that structure look like? I'd like to have that from.
I think those specific discussions will follow a little bit later as we get through options and going through, a committee that's being set up for those discussions and engagement. Highly unlikely we're gonna be spending $20 million on a rec facility in the 25-26 fiscal year.
No, absolutely not.
So as Tara mentioned, there will be some, what resourcing do we need in the immediate term?
Immediate.
What does the longer term timeline look like? But of course, until we've kind of focused in on what those options are, that's when we'll be ready with those different analyses.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, anyone else, any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Letter of thanks, female firefighters, Lunenburg County, regarding support for our annual event, and that's just a letter of thanks. Always nice to have. And 11.2, letter from Village Chester, EDI Advisory Committee, where they essentially want a member.
Speak to it?
Yes, this letter, the Village Commission is formally requesting a seat at our, the Municipality of Chester's EDI Committee, so not the regional committee, but as part of our local committee that we have. So we would ask for a motion from council if they are okay with this request.
I don't have a problem. Moved and seconded. Mr. Brimmer, Cancavino, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried, yeah. Okay, 11.3. It's from Sarah Philby, charting a path for growth.
Yeah, so this is comments and feedback regarding the growth strategy and
I know.
the consultation, yeah.
I'm not sure there's any specific action. Yeah, it's information, it's, yeah, it's just another opinion, and take it into consideration along with all the others. Yes?
I'd just like to comment, thank you, Warden Weber, that I had 2 individuals from my district that reached out to me and felt that the process was a bit flawed from the consultants. They received a notice a day after the meeting, and this was the second go-around. And just wanted to make council aware of that. And they said they didn't know whether we wanted to not get any opinion, or whether, you know, it's just something that happened with the consultants. So they felt a little bit dismayed, because both of them would have went to the session, and it was gone by.
Yeah, we've had some communication issues.
Serious, so going forward, we need to
Try to improve that.
improve with our consultants that we have, and really look at that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. No, he's got his, he's all done and gone. Okay, 11.4, Minister of Emergency Management regarding moving toward consistent and impactful emergency response. I guess we kind of know that that's all in the works.
Yep, so this basically is a letter from the Minister of Emergency Management, which is a new department now. And so they have requested that municipalities activate their emergency operation centers when the province activates at a level 2. In the past, many times we would go to a monitoring, depending on the situation. We would either activate virtually, sometimes in person. They're requesting that when the province activates their EOC at a level 2, that we also activate Remo's EOC at a level, or an in-person as well. So we'll have that discussion at the Remo level, and it was a request. It wasn't a mandate right now, but
We'll
yeah,
have to decide what to
we'll
do.
have to decide what to do.
Okay,
Abdullah has his.
Oh, sorry,
has his
Abdullah.
hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I think this plays into our discussion about Remo earlier. And, I mean, Andre covered it very well, what happened at the meeting. And we danced around for a while till they got to the monkey in the room, if you remember, which was, you know, hiring our own. Oh, sorry, did I say monkey? It was an elephant, sorry. Yeah, you were the elephant, that's right. Anyway, so at the meeting, you know, I think Andre made it a good case for having someone. And I think, and I hope the other councils as well, because, I mean, I feel that's the way we're gonna go. That's the way I hope we go. And still have some, and I mean, you can just see it with all this, you know, the province is really pushing towards this. And I think it would serve us well to have someone, because I think if they looked at the report, what our contribution was to Remo was well in excess of probably what we would have paid a staff member. And we'll, you know, and I hope that's what comes to pass. Because certainly I'll be on the side of having our own.
But this will also apply to the regional organization as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's-
Oh, yeah, it'll, you're still gonna be part of the regional thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything, I think we discussed that at the Remo meeting. That, you know, that they have a role to play, important role as well, but I think this plays into that. Anyway, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay, so 11.5, Social Housing Action Coalition. I get that somewhere here.
It's extending congratulations to council following the election and introducing them to Social Housing Action Coalition and the opportunities to participate with SHAC.
Sylvia. Got a bunch of roads.
Hi. Morning. We have 2 new private roads proposed today. The first one's in Sim Settlement. The road name is Bedrock Run. It's a unique road name. We have no objections from the fire department or public works.
She keeps things quite simple. Do you want to approve it? Moved by Clarissa and seconded by Tom. Oh, sorry. Oh, Coolin and Bremner. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
And the second one is in Chester. The proposed road name is McCaw. We have no objections from the fire department or public works, and it's a unique road name. Did I say it right? McCall?
Moved by Councillor Church, seconded by Councillor Raisin. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. You guys have any questions for Sylvia before she leaves? I mean, just went awful easy for her again.
So you see, is that, so obviously, once the, it's so many PDIs, 2 or 3, you have to name the road,
3 or more civic addresses.
or civic
required.
address, yeah. Yeah, good, I hope he plans to build something there.
He's building 2 dwellings right now.
Pardon me?
He's building 2 dwellings right now.
Oh, nice,
There's an
yeah,
existing one, and I think he has
Oh, good.
plans for maybe another one too.
perfect.
Hey, thanks, Sylvia.
That's Sam that owns Ricardo's,
Okay.
if anybody have, yeah. If you haven't got land in the line, good.
12.3, heavy equipment mechanic position. I think you may have mentioned this to us before.
Okay, so, yes, we're infrastructure and operations, and in particular landfill, is requesting that council approves the creation of a heavy equipment mechanic position based at Kaiser Metals landfill. The original job description that was approved in 2023 to be included in the 2024-2025 budget was a heavy equipment operator and a heavy equipment mechanic position. We found that the combination of those 2 roles was difficult to attract any applicants. We did get 1 qualified applicant who was offered the position, but they declined the offer of employment due to the fact that we couldn't meet their salary expectations. With that in mind, we have still the need for a heavy equipment mechanic to replace one of our colleagues who is soon to retire, and we need to have that overlap in order to pass knowledge on and, you know, continue where the good work has left off. So this is not a new position. It's simply a refinement of an existing job description, and we're requesting that council approves that heavy equipment mechanic position.
I just want to add, normally we wouldn't come for a rescoping of a position, but because the original position included heavy equipment operator and we're losing that capacity, we wanted to make council aware of that because there will likely be another request coming as part of the budget process regarding that capacity. So I didn't want to approve a change of the scope to just a heavy equipment mechanic when council had approved the scope that had it was a combined
two
position.
positions.
Yeah.
Councillor Church?
Yeah, I just have a question. So will there be sufficient work then for a full-time heavy equipment mechanic since the existing position that is there, they do a little bit of heavy equipment operation as well?
So the overlap, obviously, there's going to be 2 people working on the same machinery. the mechanic position, once it's a standalone, there's only the one person there, we believe is probably about 60 or 70% of their
They'll do a
working
little bit of
week.
something else.
However, what we would request, or what we would encourage, is for that the successful applicant to train on heavy equipment so that they're able to help out their colleagues elsewhere on the landfill. So it's not 100%, but we can certainly use 100% of their time.
Okay.
It's always a little bit of overlap.
Would you make that, when you post for the job? I think that you anticipate the recipient or the person that's doing the interview, when
We didn't,
that they understand that, I guess.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It would be put in the job description.
It's job description,
Yes,
sorry, that's what I was
absolutely.
trying to say, yeah.
Yep.
Right, rainfall, yeah, thank you.
Do you have a motion? Now I can't remember. No. Motion to approve, or,
You need a motion for that?
yes?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion for that?
I'll move that we approve position description.
Okay, moved by Councillor Church. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Racer. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Request for decision, freedom of information request, corporate strategic management. Who's speaking on this issue?
I think I am.
Are you?
I think so.
We're getting a lot more requests than we used to get.
Yeah, we definitely have had an increase in the number of requests for freedom of information and protection of privacy requests, so that's going up. We anticipate that will continue to go up. That's a trend that we've seen in other municipalities as well. Municipalities that used to sort of assign that to a clerk role or to the CAO role are starting, we've noticed a couple that have hired their own FOIPOP officers. So we definitely notice it going up. In the meantime, we also know that we charge a $5 application fee. That's mandated by the legislation. But the legislation also allows us to charge processing fees. So to recover at actual costs, up to a certain amount, the time that it takes for staff to process those requests. We have not in the past required any processing fees. So we are coming to council to recommend that you direct staff to begin collecting processing fees for the freedom of information and protection of privacy requests.
Councillor Vino.
I think that every service that we offer here, if I'm not mistaken, we operate with a cost recovery model. And this would be the only exception to that sort of practice. And, you know, I think that the ordinary taxpayer that if they were aware of the expense that's being incurred by sometimes only a few individuals and the massive amount of research and work that they're creating within their government, I think they would be very, very surprised. And I think that in general, I think I would have no problem in my district finding support to recover as much cost as possible for this work. I think basically at $5 and then an unlimited access to, you basically have a dedicated person working for you, researching whatever you feel you want to research. I think that's actually pretty crazy. And so I think whatever the MGA allows us to recover in terms of costs, I think whatever that maximum limit is, that's what we should be pursuing with this change in policy.
Okay, what exactly is your motion? To introduce the processing fee, okay?
Yep.
So you're making that a motion?
I'll move that, sure.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Can we second it? And then second it by Councilor Racer? No, sorry.
Oh, no, thank you very much. I'm jumping on what the Councilor Vino just said. Is there a maximum amount that you can request, or are you gonna go with the MGA model? I mean, is there something that,
So the
just to offset your time value?
The MGA requires us, so the fees must be the actual cost of the staff time, but they cannot exceed $15 per half hour, so
Okay.
$30 an hour, rounded down to the nearest half hour. So that would be the model we would use in doing it. So what we would do is we would provide an estimate of the amount of time that it would take to process. So the $5 application fee would come in. We would look at the request. We would communicate back what a processing fee estimate
Likely
is.
cost, yeah.
So it's likely that it'll take us X number of hours, and at that rate of the person who's doing the processing, then we would give them that quote, and then we would do the work, and we would charge the actual cost of it. So hopefully it's within the right range, and if it starts to get too far out of the range, we would go back to them and say, this is where we are, this is the quote we provided to you, would you like us to proceed?
Okay. And there's no monies up front other than the $5 fee?
Correct.
Ergo, you would not disclose the information until they paid? Okay.
Correct.
And they would have that information up front.
They would have the
value?
quote and
With-
the
with-
estimated
with
time
the
up front,
estimated time.
yeah.
That's perfect.
It may discourage some people from,
Whether it discourages or not, I mean, everyone's time is valued.
yeah.
Every time you go to any work, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, your time is valued, and it needs to be recorded.
Pay
Yeah.
for a building permit, you pay for planning permits.
And
Thank you.
it would also allow us, depending on, most of our requests are gonna be done electronically, but if there's shipping and handling costs for paper copies, if they request hard copies, we could recover that and the duplication costs as well.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Councilor Brino.
I say further to that, you know, at $30 an hour, that, even if that's a fraction of what our true cost is. So, you know, I think they're getting
Still
still
cheap.
quite a deal, even at $30 an hour. So like, we should have probably been doing this many years ago.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay, so that's the end of the agenda, so we have one in-camera matter. Yes. Motion to go in camera? Moved, Tina, Councilor Connors, and Councilor Asa. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Councilor Coolin. Second, Councilor Church. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.